Baseball-sized hail, buildings demolished, dams on the verge of collapse. Right now, tens of millions of Americans are caught inside the worst storm outbreak of 2026, and it is not over. In fact, the worst day might still be coming. Here is what is happening, and it is a lot. This is not one storm. This is a multi-day severe weather outbreak stretching from the border between Texas and Mexico all the way up to the Great Lakes. Tornadoes, giant hail, flash floods, and dam failures all happening simultaneously across half a continent. Since Monday, the damage has been relentless. On Monday, more than a dozen tornadoes tore through Kansas, Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. 50 to 60 structures were completely destroyed in Miami County, Kansas alone. On Tuesday, more tornadoes struck Wisconsin and Iowa. Softball-sized hail hit parts of the region, flooding stranded cars at O'Hare Airport in Chicago. More than 36,000 people were without power in Wisconsin by morning. On Wednesday, another round hit, with widespread power knocked out in Arkansas and Oklahoma. More than 62,000 people in Michigan woke up with no power, and the storms are still coming. We are talking about tens of millions of people in the danger zone right now. And here's the question you should be asking. Why does America keep getting hit like this, year after year, in the exact same places? I'll answer that, but first, let me show you what's actually happening on the ground. Because some of these stories are unbelievable. Let's start in Kansas, because that's where this week opened with a punch nobody saw coming. On Monday night, an EF2 tornado with winds up to 115 miles per hour ripped through Miami County. It hit the small town of Hillsdale almost dead on. About 100 structures were damaged. 50 to 60 of them were completely gone. Barns, homes, businesses were reduced to rubble in minutes. To understand how fast that happens, an EF2 tornado moves at around 30 to 50 miles per hour. You can hear it maybe 30 seconds before it is on you. That is not enough time to think, only to react. And then, not far away in Lynn County, another tornado. Multiple buildings were described by emergency officials as simply demolished. A lake community southeast of Mound City took a direct hit. Here is what is remarkable though, despite all of that destruction, only one minor injury was reported in Miami County. Crews searched through the night and into daylight. Nobody was missing. How? Because the warning systems worked and people listened. But in Wisconsin, the story was different. And honestly, it's the one that kept meteorologists up at night, because the tornado warning they issued there wasn't a normal warning. It was something far more rare and far more terrifying. When the National Weather Service issues a tornado warning, people pay attention. But there is a level above that, something most people have never heard of. It is called a particularly dangerous situation warning. The National Weather Service only uses this label when the threat is so severe, so imminent, that a standard warning does not feel strong enough. It is reserved for long-track, violent tornadoes, the kind that stay on the ground for miles. On Tuesday in Wisconsin, they issued one. A destructive tornado struck near Union Center. Multiple structures were damaged. Power lines were down. Tornado warnings fired simultaneously for millions of people in Milwaukee, Madison, Detroit, Ann Arbor, and Fayetteville, Arkansas. Universities, including the University of Michigan and the University of Arkansas, told students and staff to take shelter immediately. At Grand Rapids Airport, an 80 miles per hour wind gust was recorded. It was not a tornado, just the storm's regular wind. Softball-sized hail fell near Maple Bluff, Wisconsin. Stones that big do not just dent cars, they puncture roofs and seriously injure people. Now you might be thinking, okay, this is bad, but storms happen. And you are right. But here is where this week gets genuinely scary. Because the tornadoes might not be the most dangerous part of this story. The flooding is. Tornadoes are fast. They are violent, dramatic, and over in minutes. Flooding is different. Flooding is patient. It rises, it waits. And by the time you realize how bad it is, sometimes it is already too late to leave. The Great Lakes region, Michigan and Wisconsin specifically, is in serious trouble right now. This spring has been one of the wettest starts on record. Rivers are already saturated. Then add snowmelt. Then add multiple rounds of heavy rain this week. The ground is full. The rivers are full. There is nowhere for the water to go. The Manistee River near Sherman, Michigan, is already above its record flood stage by more than a foot. That is not approaching a record. That is already past it. The Muskegon River near Evart, Michigan is expected to hit major flood stage by Thursday. Subdivisions upstream are looking at serious flooding. Evacuations are possible. In Milwaukee, rapidly rising water trapped multiple drivers near Timmerman Airport. 5 vehicles were stuck in floodwaters. All occupants got out safely, but only because emergency crews responded in time. In Chicago, O'Hare Airport recorded over 2 inches of rain in 6 hours, mostly in a 2-hour window overnight. Water was literally bubbling up from drains inside the terminals. But none of that is as frightening as what is happening with the dams. At least one of them is on the edge of failing, and the town downstream does not have much time. In Waupaca County, Wisconsin, emergency managers have ordered preventative evacuations downstream from the Big Falls Dam. Why? Because the dam is at risk of failing. Let that sink in. A dam, possibly failing. The National Weather Service issued a flash flood warning citing the dam's imminent failure. Thousands of people downstream, including communities along the Little Wolf River all the way to the city of New London, were told to leave. As of the latest updates, the dam has not failed. Officials have been piling sandbags and rocks around it to stop water from going around the structure, but the county's emergency director said something that tells you everything. Our rivers are all at flood stage level right now, so we have water all over the place. And Big Falls is not the only one. All dam reservoirs in the county are full. All of them being actively monitored, one after another. In Sheboygan, Michigan, a levee breach on the Little Black River triggered evacuation orders for low-lying areas. Water at the county lock and dam was rising by the hour, just inches from the threshold that would trigger mandatory evacuations. This is not a single crisis. This is a region-wide stress test happening in real time. So where does it go from here? Because remember, I told you at the start that the worst day might still be coming. Here is the forecast, and it is not good. Wednesday is already underway. Wind damage and hail are the main threats. Northern Texas, Oklahoma, and southeast Kansas carry the highest risk, but the danger zone stretches all the way north to the upper Mississippi Valley and east into central Pennsylvania. Thursday is slightly quieter, but do not let that fool you. The Ohio River Valley stays at risk, and the flooding in Michigan and Wisconsin is getting worse, not better. Friday is the one meteorologists are watching. Another surge of jet stream energy fires up a final round of powerful thunderstorms, primarily from Oklahoma to Iowa. Strong tornadoes are back on the table. Destructive hail, damaging winds. Friday could rival Monday. Saturday brings one more burst of severe storms in the southern Great Lakes and Ohio Valley. The same communities that have been hammered all week get hit again. Sunday, finally, brings a weather pattern change. Cooler air moves in, and the outbreak ends. But here is the brutal reality. By the time Sunday arrives, the flooding will not stop. River levels do not respond instantly to dry weather. The Muskegon River is not peaking until Thursday. Communities along the Little Wolf River could be underwater for days after the rain stops. The storms end. The consequences do not. Which brings us to the question that nobody in the news cycle wants to sit with long enough to actually answer. Kansas, Oklahoma, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan. Sound familiar? These are the same states, the same communities, hit again and again. Part of it is geography. The central U.S. sits at the collision point of cold, dry air from Canada, warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico, and dry air pushing in from the Rockies. When those three air masses meet, the atmosphere becomes unstable in a way that almost nowhere else on Earth matches. It's why this region is called Tornado Alley. But something is shifting. The outbreak patterns are expanding. Wisconsin and Michigan, traditionally on the fringe of severe weather risk, are now seeing the rarest tornado warnings and record flood stages. Scientists tracking severe weather patterns have noted that the risk zone is migrating northeast, pushed by changes in the jet stream and warmer Gulf waters feeding more moisture into storm systems. More moisture, more energy, more destruction. The infrastructure, the levees, the dams, the drainage systems was built for a different climate. And right now, in real time, we're watching the gap between what was built and what nature is delivering grow wider every single year. A multi-day outbreak. Tornadoes from Kansas to Wisconsin. Dams on the edge. 62,000 people waking up in Michigan with no power. It is not over yet. If you are in any of the affected states, keep your weather alerts on. Do not ignore them. The people who got through this week safely were the ones who moved when they were told to move. If this breakdown gave you something, you might want to look at our video about the jet stream. The problems with tornadoes are only just starting. Stay safe. If you know someone in the Midwest right now, check in on them.